This is The Wire for 2300 Zulu, November 7th, 2025. Precedence is routine. Information cutoff is 2200. Bottom line up front. Potential chemical or biological weapon mailed to Joint Base Andrews. 7 base personnel hospitalized briefly. School shooting in Indonesia highlights growing concerns of international terrorism organizations. White House announces further cooling of the trade war with China as economic deals continue to be struck. Beginning with international events, in Indonesia, a school shooting was reported at a high school in Jakarta. A student at the school conducted a complex attack by detonating explosives inside the school's mosque before conducting a small arms attack on his fellow students at the school. 54 students were wounded in some manner during the attack, though most casualty figures are unclear at this time. Analysts comment, "This attack is interesting as it highlights a relatively new type of terror threat that has cropped up over the years, which is useful to have an understanding of. This type of attacker is now being described with rather niche terminology, nihilistic violent extremism or NVE. This label and a few other similar labels have become a popular way to describe these types of attacks in the counterterrorism community, which have gone from nearly non-existent to comparatively common over the past few years. In the Caribbean this afternoon, the Pentagon announced another kinetic targeting strike in the region, so far the 10th strike during this campaign. 3 individuals were killed during this engagement. On the home front in Washington, D.C. this morning, the White House announced another stage in the cooling of the trade war with China, which involves both parties backing down from their hardline tariffs and export controls. China will halt some, not all, of the export controls on minerals the U.S. needs, and the U.S. will halt some of the retaliatory tariffs in exchange. Analysts comment, "This has happened before. The trade conflict between the U.S. and China has ebbed and flowed since January. However, as both parties have mutual interest and aren't ready for a more kinetic conflict right now, both seem to be interested in striking a deal, though who comes out on top of this arrangement will be a point of debate in due time." In Maryland this morning, 7 people were hospitalized after opening a package filled with white powder at one of the National Guard facilities on Joint Base Andrews. The building where the discovery was made was evacuated, and several employees were briefly examined to determine if they were exposed to any chemical or biological agent. The base itself was also locked down for a short time while the situation was investigated. Analyst comments for this wire. Initial reports this morning suggested that political messages were also found in the package with the powder discovered at J.B. Andrews, as is extremely common, but no word yet on what any of those documents said. Regarding the medical situation, it is standard procedure for all parties involved with a suspicious package to immediately be hospitalized to determine if they have been exposed to anything. However, several news media outlets specifically stated that several people actually fell ill as the package was opened. All were released very quickly from the hospital, so whatever the substance was, it wasn't a genuine threat. Since it is sometimes quite traumatic to experience a potential biological or chemical terror attack, it is very common for those in the room to have an emotional reaction that can be mistaken as some kind of reaction to a biological agent. In this case, everyone turned out to be fine, so this looks to be a hoax. Most of the time these incidents are indeed hoaxes, but it only takes one genuine threat for a major incident to occur. Better safe than sorry, and now that the domestic terrorism threats presented by thousands of ideologies and cultures are becoming more palpable, it's always a good idea to keep one's head on a swivel, especially when working or associating with a high-profile political target. This concludes The Wire for 2300 Zulu, November 7th, 2025.